We're back with another episode of the One Pour Problems podcast, and I am super excited for today's episode because we're taking the show on the road. I'm joined by Doug Johnson, president of Marion Manufacturing. Super excited to have you on the show today.
I am so excited. We've got good drinks made already, so this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm ready.
Yeah. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about navigating the generational workforce in manufacturing, and I know from your specific experience, you've had to navigate that, and you're currently in the process of also navigating that now. Yeah. And so we have a lot to talk about, a lot of insight that you're going to be able to give to the listeners today. So I'm looking forward to that. But first, I want to talk a little bit about these drinks here. Why did you want to have Old Fashions, on the show today?
Well, in my outside life, I'm in a group of guys that are called the Bourbon Boys. There's 10 of us. Huh? We tend to drink bourbon a lot. Old Fashions are go-to. Uh-huh. I thought I could beat you with my secret recipe, but I got to admit, yours is pretty good. Not as good as mine, but it was close. It was close. So that's kind of how it happened. It was like, all right, what are we going to do? Got to do an Old Fashioned.
Yeah.
It's the go-to drink.
That's for sure. I love it. I think for me, this is like, again, the drinks that were like the gateway drinks into this world for bourbon and that kind of stuff. The Old Fashioned for me is like the classic go-to cocktail. So
super popular right now. I mean, you can get all kinds of Old Fashions made up now. I mean, they're doing tequila Old Fashions and vodka Old Fashions. I mean, you name it. Everybody's making Old Fashioned, so it's easy. Yep. It's typically going to be pretty good in a restaurant if they're using good bourbon. So
the right cherry.
With the right cherry, yes. Right. You can't do the maraschino cherries. That's a sin. Mm-hmm. We don't allow that.
No, definitely not. So, again, our episode today, we're talking a bunch about the navigating the generational workforce. Before we dive a bunch into that, talk to me a little bit about your background and what led you to today as the president of Marion Manufacturing.
It's a long story. So really, I left North Carolina as a 20-year-old who had not left for college, looking to escape from my three older brothers and do my thing. My father had told me, he was in the furniture business, and said to me, this is not going to be here for you. When you can't build your career like the rest of our family. Growing up in North Carolina, everybody was into furniture or textiles. So I took off. Went to work for a small startup company in Massachusetts that I was employee number 6. Oh. We were just going public, so we had an influx of money. We had this exciting new product. We were making the bottom sensor for ECG electrodes, which you saw on our tour earlier today, where we make the top mating half. Really new technology for how to make that. And it was a good offer. It was been started up by some friends that I grew up with in North Carolina. They were up here and got a good opportunity, came up, got started. And after we went public, we had a new president come in, and he had been the president of Foster Grant Sunglasses, which he left. He was forced age retirement. He came to us at 65. He had 4,500 employees, and all of a sudden he's running a company of 6.
Wow.
And he took a liking to me, and he asked me one day, just in conversation, he said, look, I've been watching you, and you seem to be really engaged and have a lot of potential. I just am curious, what do you want? What do you want from the company? What are you after? And I was probably 21 at the time, looked at him and said, I want your job. Now, he was a big 6'4", 200-some pound Italian guy whose hands were twice the size of mine, and he stood up and he kind of chuckled and he said, I tell you what, you do everything I tell you to do, I'll get you as close as you can possibly get. So I spent the next 14 years doing everything that he asked me to do. I ran every department in our company, traveled all over the world, did all of our sales and marketing, set up our accounts, watched us grow from a startup company to 10 million in sales to 20 million in sales, and it continued to grow. I went back to school. He required me to go to school. I went to WPI, School of Industrial Management, for 4 years at night, which was the most painful 4 years of my life. Yeah. to get it done. And as soon as I graduated, he became chairman of the board, and I became president of the company at 35. So it didn't take me long to realize I was in way over my head. Publicly traded company, going to New York City and getting up and talking in front of shareholders who have a lot of money invested in your company. It brings a whole new level of just fear at times. Are we doing the right thing? Are we protecting the shareholders' investment? And through that, I was very young and I had an older staff, so I was trying to work my way through it with people that were 10, 15, 20 years older than me. And that was really my first exposure to generational staffing issues and management styles, and trying to learn from all of these people, but also make a name for myself and climb that ladder as quickly as I could, because I was hungry.
Yeah.
Really wanted to get to the top. And there were a lot of challenges along the way, and the opportunities were tremendous. And I had a lot of good fortune too, because when you're in a company like that, of course, they're hiring people, bringing in executives, and you got to outlive them. You're just like, I've got a VP of operations in front of me. He's only 10 years older than me. Can I outlive him? When things change, people move on and people move to different locations. And I was able to move up and get in the right position. So when I got out of school, I could take over the presidency. Didn't take me long to realize, I knew I was in over my head, but I just did not believe in some of the things that we were seeing as we got deeper and deeper into the real corporate world, and stockholders and stockholder equity and expectations, and what we were going from this startup company, even though it had been a 12 or 13 year gap. All of a sudden now, all the things that we had built, all the benefits and perks and all these things that we had fun doing, were starting to get taken away. And I just, I reflected back on what my father always said to me. I mentioned it to you earlier. Life's too short to work in a job you don't love.
Absolutely.
And all of a sudden, I didn't like who was looking back at me in the mirror. So, I got to move on. I can't do this. And decided to leave. Was driving through Cheshire, Connecticut. I had a supplier and a customer here, stopped to have lunch. He made an offer to me, said, look, I have a startup company. Are you interested in coming and running it for me? I'm like, why not? I just did it. Yep. So that's how we ended up here in Cheshire, and worked with that company for 10 years. It was sold. I was the sole employee who didn't get offered the job. Of course, they had someone like me, so I didn't get the offer. And we had some business here at Marion, and I had become friendly with some of the staff people here. And it's one of those moments in life when you talk about one door closes and another door opens for you. I got told on a Sunday that I wasn't going to have a job, and on Monday, I got a call from here saying, can I come and meet with you? The sales manager at the time had become very close with me, came down and met with me and said, look, we know the company's being sold. You told us that a few months ago, and the owners would like for you to consider coming to run Marion if you decide you don't want to go to the new company. And I went, thank you, God. And
little do they know.
Right. And came and interviewed and talked to the owners here, and and I knew they were struggling. It was 2010. The automotive industry was tanked. There were 85% automotive here, and they were struggling. And I just took my shot and said, I'll come, but if I help turn it around, I want to buy it. You're both in your early 60s. You don't have any children in the business, and that's kind of what I want to do. And lo and behold, I cut the deal and came to work here in 2010 and bought it in 2015. So, and I guess when we talk about generational, when I got here, our average age was 62.
Wow.
So there were some challenges ahead of me, but really we were just looking to stay in Cheshire. I love Connecticut. I've lived in Connecticut longer than anywhere else that I've been, and this was home to me, and my wife had a great job, and my son was getting ready to start high school. The last thing I wanted to do was move and leave. He was settled. We're settled. So that's how we ended up here.
Wow.
So it's been a fun adventure. And I've called some breaks. The president, who was my mentor, could never repay him for what he allowed me to do and gave me the tools and the opportunities to say, I'm going to take this young kid from North Carolina and give him the opportunity to become something. So, and I look for that in our world, here at Marion, to say, all right, who can we take and turn into something and help them get to the next level? And you hope it's everybody.
Yep.
Right? I mean, that's the goal, is to get everybody moving in the right direction.
Yeah, it's quite the story, because I know a few episodes ago I had talked with Brett Green from Willington Nameplate, and he had an interesting kind of philosophy of like everything happens for a reason. And it's funny that same kind of thing here.
Right.
Like Sunday was this, Monday all of a sudden you're like, it happens for a reason. And I think, again, the whole premise of this show for me was that I ended up at Charles IT, a 17-person company with like $4 million in revenue in 2017 because of a bourbon tasting.
Yeah.
Like everything happens for a reason. So that's where this stuff comes from. So I love the story and like how it happens. And I think the biggest thing that I took away from that is you saying that, like, yes, someone like saw something in you, but like you had to do the things for them to see that, right? And so it's not just like they're like, I need somebody. Guess
right, yeah, no. There were a lot of tests along the way, and I mean, there were jobs. I mean, I remember back, I had to do payroll for 9 months, and I hated it.
Yeah.
Because you don't realize how personal work is until you screw up somebody's paycheck.
Yep. You don't want to
Then it becomes personal.
Yeah.
And that was an eye-opener for me, because I was like, okay, I get it, because, we all need our money. We want to get paid. But it was an innocent mistake, and I'm, getting crucified by someone who's probably 20 years older than me because I messed up his paycheck. So, but, and there were rewarding things. I got to travel all over the world. I mean, he was very good about, I would go somewhere, and I'd say, I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks. I'm going to be in Europe for 2 weeks. And he'd say, now, over the weekend, I have to pay you to be there anyway. So I want you to go and do something that you normally wouldn't do. Go somewhere you've never been. I would hop on a plane. I would fly to another country. I would get on a ferry and go to somewhere, or a train to, in Italy, go to another city. All these things that
that's really
I look back on and go, how do you replicate that in today's world? It would be hard, right, to do that in today's world. But those were the rewards, because he knew that was going to help make me a better leader, a better salesperson, a better, well-rounded person. And he's like, I want you to do these things. So, and report back to me what you saw and what you did, because I want to know, because it's important to me. And that's really cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Huh. So in your story, you talked a little bit about how when you joined that organization, there was people that were 10, 20 years older than you, and you had to lead at that level. We just did a tour through your office today, and there's a lot of young people in the organization today. So you're now like both sides, right? Like how is what you learned from your first go around with a generational gap, helped you today, where, there's a generational gap, technology advancements, like a lot is different now.
Yeah.
How has that helped you?
I think, a lot of times I'll stop myself when someone's in my office, and I'll use my son as an example, because, we can be oil and water at times, especially not as much now. We've both matured, I will say it that way. I don't want to throw him under the bus, because he's done very well. I think a lot of times I look back on and go, I remember having those conversations when I was a young person, talking to someone who worked for me, who was much older than me, and how upset I would get, and how it's like an open book, and not trying to learn not to wear your emotions so openly. You got to learn to listen. And it's been a challenge for me, especially with my son, to be able to listen and not look at him and see that little kid that, followed me around for years, that's now looking at me as, he's running this place. I've got all my eggs in his basket now. How do I help him, one, learn to talk to me? We have outside coaches, and, I talked to you a little bit about that earlier. We have an outside coach that helps us with that, but there's not a day goes by that I don't think about some lesson that I learned trying to work with someone older than me. And, the technology gap was nowhere near what it is now. We were, I knew how to use a computer. They probably didn't at the time, but it was a small gap compared to today's world. And just drawing back on it and saying, learning to think before I open my mouth and think about what I say and how it can have a profound effect on someone that's in their 20s for the rest of their career. Because there are things that were said to me when I was in my 20s that I still remember. That were good and bad, and you want to make sure, you want to try and make as many of them good as you can. And I think it's just like everybody, it's that the hard knocks that you go through, you got to take something from it, always trying to learn and keep your eyes open and your ears open. So I've learned more in the last 3 or 4 years probably in my career than any other time.
Really?
Just because of how everything changed after the pandemic and transitioning a company to a younger age really quickly out of necessity, and also the fact that it's very hard for a company our size to compete with an experienced, going out and hiring an experienced, I'll use a tool maker as an example. We can't have 10 55, 60-year-old tool makers out there. We just couldn't. We wouldn't be able to compete at the level we can with the younger workforce. And you look at all the cost of benefits. There's so many great intangibles that you don't think about when you're putting the young workforce together. Health insurance. It's a fraction of the cost. Energy. There's so many things that come to mind when I think about that. But as far as lessons learned, it's really listen. Try and listen to what they're trying to tell you, because it's a big gap between me and the 20-year-olds out there.
Yeah. Definitely. So you talk about the pandemic and having to pivot and change. So what happened there? It sounds like something happened where now the workforce you've pivoted to younger generation. Like what was kind of the impetus behind that?
Well, it had kind of started a little bit before that. Because when my son Tyler came to work here, up until that point, I wasn't as settled as I am today, because it's like you're looking at it going, I bought the company in 2015, but I didn't buy the property. Because in the back of my mind, I'm going, all right, do we stay? Do we move? Do we go to, I get calls weekly from other states to say, would you move your company? And until he got here, there was that unsettled about the property, and do we really want to own this piece of property in Connecticut? And that had started. Then the pandemic hit, and we got really busy in the beginning, because remember, we did a lot of telecommunication work. So all of a sudden everybody's at home, and high-speed internet access is going in all over the country, all over the world, but particularly for us in North America. We were busy that first year, and the second year it caught up with us. We do a lot of medical, so elective surgeries got stopped, if you remember that. Everybody thought medical's safe, but the pandemic proved that even that can be pushed off, especially elective surgeries. So we had some defections. We had some older people leave. We had some people to retire. I think you had that that time that we went through where people that were close enough to retire said, this is nuts. I don't want to work in this. I'm getting out. So we had this big wave. And at the same time, I know Tyler was thinking in his mind, this is my shot to bring my people in. And I'm looking at it going, well, I can go out and hire someone who's 55.
Yep.
But he's going to have to do it again, maybe twice.
Yeah.
So what if we go out and just rip the Band-Aid off, hire young, and start training? Because we were having a hard time finding people. But what I do know is with this generation, they learn quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So we hired a few people that we knew, some people that Tyler went to school with, and that's his core management team now. They bring people in. We started that transition, and once you're in it, it's like I said a minute ago, rip the Band-Aid off and just do it. Mm-hmm. Because we're going to be so far ahead of everybody else when it's done.
Yep.
Our average age shrunk as low as 32.
Wow.
We're talking 62 to 32. I think we're around 36 right now. And there's a few of us in here that are much older than our 30s that are skewing those numbers.
Yep.
And that was kind of the catalyst. And once I saw how effective they were working together and what they could accomplish, I'm like, all right, maybe this is not so bad.
Yep.
If we give them the tools, once we assemble them. And Tyler's really good and his management group about, especially now that we got some water under the bridge, is we're not necessarily hiring for skills anymore. We're looking at, can we hire somebody and plug them in? Mm-hmm. If they're willing to learn and they can be a team player, we can teach them anything. We prove it every day out there. I mean, you walk through, you see how young those people are out there. We have a tendency to bring people in and let them work in the plant for 6 months before we really decide where they're going to go.
Yep.
Because people migrate to things they like, and if they like them, they're going to be successful. And that's worked for us very well the last couple of years. We'll bring someone as an operator, and all of a sudden they're in the tool room every spare moment. Then that's probably someone you want to be a tool maker if they got the skills. So that's helped us quite a bit. And once the ball started rolling, it's like, all right, I got to stay. We got to do this. We got to see it to the finish line. And it's been crazy at times, as you can imagine. I joke about it. Some days it's like the Wild Wild West. Some days it's like a daycare. But they get it done.
Yep.
It's amazing to watch some of the things they've accomplished over the last couple of years.
Yep. Yeah, and I think it's a it's a testament to like the way that you saw the direction the company needed to go in, right? Where you mentioned that you're going to be so far ahead of, some of the competition because you've made this change, because you know it probably well more than I do that this industry is known for being laggards for technology and advancements and that kind of stuff. And I think the state of Connecticut and, shout out to Paul Lavoie and all of the great things that they're doing to try to advance manufacturing and bring more technology and upskilling and that kind of stuff to be able to progress the organizations that we have here in Connecticut, because there's so many of them. But it's a testament to being able to see that ahead of time and take that like into your own hands. And I know that, in our organization, we did something similar because, we're always looking for great people. That's the biggest limiting factor to success in our industry and yours too. And so, we were like, we can go and try to find some of these people. They may, have a bunch more experience, but they may have bad habits or different expectations than what we want. And we have to train them out of it. And so we made a flip in our business to say, what if we started our own like farm system? And it was, really like the baseball mentality of like, do I create this program where I train people, build them up and give them opportunity to rise in the ranks? And it's gonna suck for a little while because you're gonna stop going after these high-end people, and you're going
Right.
to spend a bunch of time to go train and develop. And you might have a lot of people at the entry level, but now that we're 3-4 years into this, those people that we originally brought in are now like mid-level in our team, and it's really bolstering the organization. So, it sounds like you've set yourself up in a spot to be really successful for the long haul with that change.
Yeah, I mean, I think, one of the other things that we've done, and, listening to you talk about you having a farm team, that to me, the first thing that popped in my mind is Chris Ulbrich.
Yeah.
Because the Ulbrich family and the Ulbrich company has a similar situation where they have a training program that people are coming up through. And I always comment when I see Chris or Jonathan or Greg Boucher about how well run your training program is. I'll bump into somebody in Chicago that's in the Ulbrich training program that's from Cheshire, Connecticut. And I'm like, how in the world are you pulling these bright young people out of my own hometown?
Yep.
Right under my nose. But that's part of their training program, and you watch these people grow. We're doing the same thing, but we're also going outside and bringing in people to help us.
Yeah.
So we have 5 coaches that we use that come in here. We have a CEO coach that was hired to help me and Tyler get along, right? Learn about how he processes information versus how I process. We might have the same idea and the same results, but we don't get there in the same direction, the same path.
Yep.
And it's important for us to understand that. And that's been a great experience. It's helped us tremendously. We also use him for strategic planning, our core competencies, looking at what we do good and what we're not so good at, and really strategic planning, which we had not done in many years here. And to sit down with a group, and there's 8 of them that are in our management team that we're going through strategic planning and doing our strengths and weaknesses. And, and I said it the first day, I'm like, the first time we get together, I was talking to our coach, I'm like, the wheels are going to fall off. I can just see it. And they did. But it was a liberating moment for a lot of them, because all of a sudden they're in a room, they're in this room with me, the door's shut. We're in here for 4 or 5 hours, right? The first person that aired a grievance, everybody got to talk about the things that bother them and the things that we need to improve on. So that was a process that we went through, and it really let everybody understand that, hey, you know what, we're listening.
Yeah.
Here's what we need to do. We got a 5-year plan we're working on to get there. What do we need to do to get better? And out of that came a lean initiative. So to lean on the Ulbrich family again, we hired their lean coach, and it had a profound effect right away. Because one, Tyler was into it already. He was already reading the Toyota way, and he was really into the lean movement and wanted to do it. I was resistant when he first got here, because I knew I had a lot of older staff that are not going to change their ways. We're just not going to get there, and I just didn't have the energy to fight it. But now we've watched it really take off and just flourish, and our coach comes in once a week. He's like a rock star. He walks in the door. He's high-fiving people. They absolutely love him, every employee.
That's great.
And it's exciting because everybody wants to be involved, and they want to go out and find ways to improve. And when you see an 18-year-old walking through the plant with a clipboard in his hand, looking at things to improve and looking at projects, did we meet our goal? Are we doing the things we say we're going to do? It's crazy.
Yeah.
We have a coach for sales and marketing, that's working with Katie and Joe here to work on our sales process. What is our process? We don't have a good process. Let's start over. That's in and working, and there's programs that are going through the Sandler program. So that's been very helpful. We have a coach for Katie, because, Katie is the only female in our core management team. And I always look at her as she's a girl playing in a boy's sandbox, and we got to help her. And she says they're playing in her sandbox, which I love.
That's awesome. But
I wanted her to have someone that she could turn to, so we hired a female professional to help her, so she can go out and meet with her and talk about the issues that all of us guys generate for her.
Yep.
Because she's usually the one that comes in and cleans up our mess. But
Yep.
so that's been good. But I think those are the kind of things you got to be willing to do. You know, and we've used the state to help us with that, with some of the funding. So we're really good. Know Paul Lavoie very well. You know, and he's been in here a few times, and we work with CCAT and Idling Candles and just trying to say, all right, you know, what can we do? What does the state offer? Because the state does a lot of things to hinder our ability to grow. So we're out looking at how do we counter that, and one of them has been through training and couple worker training. All of our employees know that they can take anything they want to take for a class. I think you probably saw the bonsais out there. You know, there's a beer and bonsai event. You know, those kind of anything to help them grow.
Yeah,
we're going to pick up the tab for it because we want them out doing those kind of things.
Yeah.
And that's all part of that process.
Yep. That's so funny. So we did a bourbon and bonsai event. So of course it had to be bourbon, but
yeah,
that's just me. I know
you finished that awful quick.
well,
And it was bigger than mine too.
deliver yours over here just so we have it.
Are we swapping out now? You're going to drink mine and I'm drinking yours for the second half?
That's it.
All right. I like it.
I like this. Yeah, you're going to you're stepping into higher proof.
Oh, is that what it?
I'm like dessert drink at this point.
Yeah, but you smell that smoke from that smoke glass?
I do, and I certainly appreciate that.
That gave me the edge.
That was
right. It took me over the top.
It did. That was quite the touch. I'm not gonna lie. So, you know, we're talking about like the generational gap and that kind of stuff, and I'm interested in hearing because, you know, your skill set had to change a bunch to be able to navigate the change in the workforce, and generally, like, you know, in your position, it takes a lot to be able to say, hey, like, I need to change the way that I think and flip the entire, like, you came from like a safety net, right?
Yeah.
You're like, I know these people, they know the process, I have all this, and guess what? I'm going to hire my son's friends, right? And like switch the way that we do this. Like, that is, as silly as it sounds to say it out loud, it's really like a pretty like profound way to think of how to change the business, right? Because it's not just hiring your son's friends.
Right.
It's like, I need to invest in this to be able to get people that can learn faster, pick things up, adapt to the changes, and that's going to turn this business around.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, I'd say he was pretty picky about what friends got in.
That's good.
So he knew.
So some are out of the friend group now?
Yeah, some are out. So, you know, I think for me, it really became a point where I had to learn to stop and listen. And stop doing to allow them to do. And I learned this from my mentor because he was notorious for letting me make mistakes. And then I would get upset, and then he would look at me and go, well, you can't learn unless you make mistakes. And you're probably never going to make that mistake again. It didn't cost us a lot of money. So, you know, because he knew, just like I know. You know, there's days I sit here at this desk and I go, I'll hear them, and I'm just sitting here shaking my head going, oh, my God. Do I get up and go say something, or do I let them do it? And 9 times out of 10, I let them do it. Because they'll find their way out of it, but they're going to learn things that are going to take them to the next level. And if I'm micromanaging, they're not learning anything. And they're frustrating because they got to be self-starters because, one, we don't have a big staff. So everybody wears multiple hats and is cross-trained and everything. That's one of the things that we do very well out on the floor is cross-training because, one, as I said earlier, we want people to be able to do any job, but we want them to find the job they like the best. But I think that's the biggest challenge for me is being open to their way, because there are times I hear it And the first thought that crosses my mind is, you got to be kidding.
Absolutely not.
We're not really going to do it this way. But then if I stop long enough to reflect on it,
Yep.
and reflect on where we are as a company and in the world right now, 9 times out of 10, they're probably right.
Mm.
I'm just thinking of how I would have done it 30 years ago. That doesn't fly in today's world. You can't, and at least not inside our 4 walls. You can't do it. And I think you got to be open to that and letting them do their thing.
Yeah. I think it takes a lot for somebody to be able to say that, right? Because a lot of people like to rely on, rest on their laurels. This is what we've done in the past. This is the way that I've done it, and this is successful. And to be able to say, you know what, maybe that is the right way, and take the chance to go do that. And I'm sure you have your own safety nets in place and things that you're checking in on, but to be able to be open and willing to take that chance to make a change or look at something in a different way, again, that's a skill that you had to have picked up, along the way.
I don't know if I picked it up or I was force-fed it. It was one or the other. I mean, I think it's survival.
Mm-hmm.
I think this will work. Let's give it a try. But again, I'm really not trying to build a company for me. I'm past that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to build a company for my son and daughter, Katie, and all of our employees, that this could be their career.
Yeah.
I want them to be looking at it 30 years down the road saying we're all still together, right?
That's cool.
Because I tell them constantly when we're all together, 5 years. In 5 years, you guys are going to be unstoppable.
DNA.
5 years ago was 10 years, but in 5 years, I do believe that they will possess the skills, and we will be in a position as a company to do whatever we want to do.
Yeah.
And you can't get there standing waiting on somebody to bring that to you. You got to step out of your comfort zone and try and make it happen. Because, for me, I tease them all the time about, we buy a new piece of equipment. I go, I guess I'm not going to have that second home, because now it's a wire EDM machine, or it's a new stamping press or something. But at the end of the day, we really are just trying to build a company that can, one, continue the legacy of Marion Manufacturing, but be something that these 20 and 30-year-olds can retire from. Because we never hire anybody with the expectation they won't finish a career here. And I've said it to everybody I've ever hired. Now, I don't get to sit in on all the interviews now. That's moved on to the younger people. But when I did hire somebody, especially if it was someone who was in their late 50s or early 60s, I always said that I want, there's 2 real things that we're after. I want you to be happy when you come in and when you leave, and we talked about it earlier. It's hard to do, but at least try. And if you can't, tell us why.
Yeah.
Come and, talk to your supervisor. Talk to me. It might be something simple we can change. The other thing is, I don't want you coming here and looking in the rearview mirror. So if we're talking money, you need to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to retire here. This should be the last job you ever go to. That's where we want you to be before you. And if you can't try and do that on both of those levels, then it's probably not the right place for you.
Yep.
Does it work all the time? No, but it works most of the time.
Yep.
And that's kind of where we've evolved to. I don't think I knew that in the beginning, but that's kind of where we're at now.
It sounds like you've cracked the code of, the younger generation of employees into the workforce, because right now, whether it's Gen Z or millennials, I would caution that it's probably Gen Zs, not us millennials, but nonetheless, known for job hopping and going from place to place and wanting something different or something better or something like that. You being able to say, I'm going to double down on hiring these younger people based off of what sounds like the same thing that we do in our like IT trainee program is hungry, humble, and smart.
Yeah.
Right. Like those are things you look for. I could teach you anything else.
Right.
Like you can't teach you those. Like, but if I can teach you how to be a tech and that kind of stuff, great. But you've got that. But then you're also figuring out ways to listen to them and understand what they want in a career. Because I think that at the end of the day is where a lot of employers are missing, right? They bring the people on and they assume that, oh, this person just wants to make money.
Yeah.
Or they just want, 4 weeks of PTO or some flexibility in their work schedule, but it sounds like you're really thinking about those things to keep them long term.
Yeah. And I give Tyler a lot of credit. He's thinking about it a lot. Mm-hmm. And I think when you look at it that way, it's really this current workforce that we have, they're looking at it completely different than anybody ever probably has. And we look at it as how can we make it challenging, rewarding, fun. And, when we worked on our core competencies, we talk about all of those things, because one of the things in our core competencies, and when we talk about what we want as a company, is we want to help manufacture people that can do X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. We want to give our employees the opportunity to start a family, have health care, have a safety net. When our 401k investment people are here, one of our benefits is they're your personal financial advisor. You can call them, they'll come in, they can meet, we will pick up the tab for anything. If you're planning financially, then you need help.
That's great.
We want to provide that to you because those are things that count.
Yeah.
Right? I think we're at a point now where they're not necessarily looking at where can I go to make another $5,000. We're trying to get them to look at all the intangibles that we're providing mm-hmm. every single day, and is that enough to keep you here? Because we don't need more people escaping Connecticut. We need more young people staying here.
Yep.
And I think if you talk to any of our young staff coming out of high school, probably most of them are looking to leave.
Yeah.
And now they're thinking about staying. They're staying. And it's just, when you look at the whole of the sum, right? All these things that we do, we talked earlier about, going to Cheshire Craft Brewing and doing the fun things that we do and going to yard goat games and just getting together. And, I give it one of the snow days this year, we had 6 or 7 people out. So I said, just shut down the office. Let's go to Byron Rondo's and have lunch. So awesome. We took almost, 15 people to lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Just to do something that, I want you to just relax. All this is going to be, this was on a Friday. Everything that we have to do today will be here on Monday.
Yep.
Let's just go enjoy each other. When we're together in those situations, and I have to get on to them occasionally about, we're not here to talk about work. We're in a social environment. Talk about what your plans are for the weekend, right?
Yep.
Don't talk about work. Let's have some fun, just get them to realize that there's so much going on in our world that you got to stop and enjoy the people that you work with every once in a while, because you spend more time with them than you do with your family mm-hmm. in most cases.
Yeah.
So get to know each other. And I think a lot of times, one of the things that I try and get our younger management team to understand too is when you're dealing with people and it's a bad situation, and you're mad, somebody's been out too much or there's something going on, everybody has a story.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going on in everybody's life. But if you're out there talking, and you might have a clue to say, all right, before we make this decision, do you know that this happened in their family this past week or so? And take that into consideration, because everybody has peaks and valleys. We've all gone through it.
Yep.
And you just can't let the heat of the moment make a bad decision.
Mm-hmm.
And defections are easy. We haven't had any. We've had one person leave in the last 3 years.
Wow, That's impressive.
That's important to us, right? Because when you have a core team like this, somebody's going to leave at some point, and it's going to be painful for the people who stay. But your job as part of that team is to keep everybody together.
Yeah.
Find out why they're thinking about leaving before they make the decision to leave. And typically it's not money with this generation. It's something else.
Yeah.
And we're really trying to constantly work on that.
I love that. I think the perspective is really unique because, again, there's a quote out there. I don't remember where it was from, but it's like everyone's battling a battle that you don't know about.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
And a lot of us jump to assume rather than, one of my favorite things to say is like, you need to seek to understand it. And, someone might have had like the worst morning, or if you're in my shoes, one of my daughters was probably a pain in the ass this morning and like stressed me out. I came into work not happy. Right? And so then something silly sets me off and they're like, man, Sal's such an asshole. And I'm like, whoa. Right. And it's like, at the same time, it's like everyone has that. And like, I know that I can be like that. Then someone else might have something else going on. And I think understanding that and having your team understand that, I think is really like, it changes the culture, because if you have lost one person in 3 years, and instead of, I like to call it mob mentality. Someone's upset and they're like, yeah, you should be. You know what? You are underpaid. Yeah, that is. Instead of those conversations, right? It's like, hey, like Doug said, if you have a problem, you have something you're upset about, something you don't like, let's talk about it. Like, bring it to me. Let's have a real conversation, because it's the same in our organization. I know we talked about it before. It's like, I can't fix that problem if you don't tell me.
Right.
And so I love that perspective, because it says something where, especially in this day and age where, we just went through the Great Resignation, and people were able to leave. They got to name their price where they wanted to go. And 3 years, like, that was right in the middle of that. And you had one person leaving that time. So it certainly says something.
I think, when I look at those kind of situations, and with this generation, or I won't even call it a generation, with the group that we have now, our age ranges from 17 to 78. So we got a big range, but the core is, our average is 36. I think that there's not a lot of, and I'm going to insult myself by saying this, because I think when we look at the bad negativity, it's the older generation that's been through so much and all of these changes. Because when you think about what I've seen in my lifetime, all the changes and all the hostilities and all the things that our world has been through in our country, I have all these things built up in my head that are negative. They don't seem to do that. There's not a lot of negativity that I feel. So when we roll something out that we want to do, it's usually pretty positive. I don't think they have any of those feelings that the company's making hundreds of thousands of dollars and we're getting screwed because we're only making X per hour. We're pretty transparent. If the company does well, I share. If the company does not so well, I take the hit and everybody else still gets paid. I mean, I think those are the kind of things that you want people to understand, is if we have a good year, we're going to share. And I'm not talking huge monetary. I'm talking about a monetary gift 4 times a year, but also parties, events, T-shirts, all these fun things, big giveaways at our party, all the things that, leading up to our Christmas party every year is like a frenzy of things. And we know what everybody's after, who wants to win what and what prizes are, and we'll double down at the last minute, we had a big, a huge uproar and laughter and everything at our party a couple years ago because of everybody betting who was going to win this big TV. And I think he's probably the youngest person on our staff wins it. And he's like 1, 2, or 3 things. He put a number back. He drew his girlfriend's number. It was just crazy. So I'm like, all right, you know what? I'll buy another TV. Just roll it. Put everybody's name back in, and we drew another TV. Because for me, it's $400 or $500.
Yep.
But that moment in time, for our company, they still talk about it.
Yeah.
So it was worth thousands of dollars to us to have everybody be so engaged at that moment and having so much fun at a Christmas event that I'm like, anything to recreate that, right? You just want to have those feelings as much as you can because they'll remember it. And I know they remind each other when somebody's down a little bit. So you'll hear somebody say something about, well, remember, these are the things that we get to do.
Yep.
And we have other companies that follow us on, other competitor or friendly, whatever you want to call them, where we'll have employees come up to us and go, we follow you guys on social media. It's so cool what you guys do. Some of the things that you post about and what we do in the community. And, we have employees that are going out and going to the local high schools and talking. We just had Brandon in our tool room go to Hamden and talk in front of their kids. I think they were middle school.
Yep.
Talk about manufacturing. Those are giving back to the community, and I think the younger people are really into that. They don't show it as much as I think you would have saw maybe 20 years ago.
Yep.
It was talked more about, but I think they're as engaged or more engaged about what's going on around them than any of us realize.
Yeah. No,
So,
I agree with that.
I hope I'm right on that anyway.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think a lot of people that are entering into the workforce right now definitely care about more social causes and giving back and some of the charitable side. And I think definitely I have a pretty good understanding of my own values, and I'm not. I would say some people are charitable with their money, some people are charitable with their time.
Yeah.
And I know myself that I am way more charitable with my time.
Yeah. And we need both.
You do,
right?
You absolutely need both. So maybe you'll be the other side.
Yeah.
But I'm charitable with my time, and I think a lot of the people entering into the workforce are starting off with that mindset of being more charitable with their time and wanting to get back in these causes. And then hopefully they can do that and then understand that later on in life, they can potentially flip to the other side.
Yeah.
And maybe they're doing a little bit of both, or they are now taking over the reins of charitable with their money.
I agree. I mean, when you look at, we do a cornhole for a cause here through the Bonnie Foundation, and Tyler's involved in it, and he's on their board of directors, and we do it in a parking lot. It's a cornhole event. All of our employees come and volunteer and participate. So it's a lot of fun. It raises a lot of money, and I think it's good for them to see that at a young age, because if you don't grow up in that environment, you don't see it necessarily. I grew up in a Southern Baptist, Southern Methodist family, and all of our outside charity events have revolved around the church. Here, we're doing everything. I mean, Katie's doing 5 or 6 different charity things, and we have United Way and Community Foundation and Waterbury Promise and all these things that we're involved in, and the Bonnie Foundation, and just trying to get people to realize that when we do United Way, I think when you live in a community like Cheshire, you don't realize that there are homeless people that live in Cheshire. People just think that all the homeless people live in the bigger cities like Waterbury and Bridgeport, but that's not the case. The need's big here too. And we want people to realize that and my father and my mother and father both always said this: when you're in a position where you can afford to give and give back, you need to give back, because it'll pay dividends tenfold. And it's so true. For our company, we do give a lot, and we participate, and we do both giving and volunteering. And there's a lot of days I wake up in the morning, when things are really going our way, thinking, that's part of it. Yep. It really is part of the process, and watching people grow through that and get more and more involved and get excited about it. Say, hey, you know what, this event's coming up, and I want to do that. It's good stuff, and that's what you want people to do. I mean, we really want people to stay here in Connecticut, be involved, get married, raise their families, and continue to grow the manufacturing base, which is really set up for a great renaissance here in Connecticut if we play our cards right. We just gotta be smart in Hartford and make the right decisions. And the people are here. We have one of the most skilled workforces in the country. We just gotta really seize that opportunity, and we got a lot of smart young people here.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
Well said, for sure. So if I asked you to give one piece of advice as we transition out of this episode to an organization that is thinking about really diving into changing the way they look at their workforce and really starting to push towards, how do I bring in entry-level employees and dedicate the time to be able to train them, upskill, and get them to where I want to be, what would be that advice that you'd give to another leader to do that?
First of all, you got to have courage, right? You got to have the courage to say, this is what we're going to do. You got to have patience, because it's not fast. It's a slow process to get it going, and an open mind, because I think if you possess those three things, you can make it happen. You need a change agent. For us, it's Tyler, because he's the one who, he's got the biggest carrot, right? This will be his company someday, so he's got the most to gain. So he has to be the change agent to go out and say, hey, I'm going to make this happen because this is my future. So you need someone to lead. But most importantly, you got to be able to listen and take it on the chin every once in a while, because there are some tough days. But I wouldn't change anything. We had a company meeting about a month ago, and we were talking about different things, and we had just had a OSHA inspection, surprise inspection, after 5 of us had been in Puerto Rico for a big trade association. This is our event. This was our first day back. It's 8:30 in the morning. OSHA's here.
That sounds fun.
But we didn't have anything wrong. We had one small item. We were ready, right? We spent a lot of time on safety. We have a consultant that comes in once a month and does an inspection of the plant, and we work on these things. And here we are in the middle of this inspection. Everybody knew their role. They played it perfectly, and we walked away with one item, 0 fine, and we're in a meeting. I said, this is what preparation pays off. This is when it pays off. This is all these things that we've done for the last 5 years. We've been doing these monthly safety meetings, and we have these walkthroughs, and everybody's inspecting everything. This is why, because we want to have a safe environment, because these machines in our building, they don't look back. They will take you down in a second. And we got to be safe. We got to be thinking about each other, and these are the kind of things that we're working for. And it's, those are the things that make you exciting. But at the end of the day, we're a team. We're working hard. We're a unicorn. When you look at us as a company, we're unicorns. We're kind of unique in what we do, but we're unique in what we've done. Because I look across the room and I look at all you young people, we're a unicorn. I'm proud of it, and you should be too. That's kind of how we try to live our life here every day.
Yeah, that's great. So I really appreciate the time today. Really appreciate the insight.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And I definitely appreciate
Very good.
the old fashioned.
Right.
Cheers.
Cheers.